The movie was a religious experience, and you're finding it hard to concentrate.
I'm finding it hard to concentrate. It's easier to talk about a movie that you didn't like than it is to talk about a movie you did
Maybe you enjoy movies you don't like more.
like. That might be the case, actually. Welcome back to Kris Vents. I'm your host with Dom the Disembodied Discord voice as always, and today we're talking about something a little different, a movie that was recommended to me by Mr. Disembodied Discord voice a few weeks ago. Uh, and a movie I did not know even existed until he told me about it. Disney's G-Force. So, Dom, this one, unlike me, you actually have a little bit of a history, quote unquote, with this movie.
That is correct. That is correct. I don't know if this has been the experience with you, but for me, there are a whole bunch of kids' movies I saw as a kid and did not form any real long-standing memories or attachment to. There's some of them were famous at the time or became famous later, like Ratatouille or the Bee Movie. But as a kid, I wasn't really attuned to that. This, along with a few others, was one of the ones that never really achieved notoriety, other than people vaguely remembering that it existed. Uh, in fact, I should tell you sometime the very first movie I ever saw in a theater, I still remember, was Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius.
Oh, oh, I remember that movie. I remember not being a Jimmy Neutron fan when I was a kid, but I remember seeing that movie.
Oh, well, we can talk. That can be your next review then. We can talk about it later. I must have been, what was it? Not old. I was not old. Uh so that was the first ever experience I had in a movie theater. Uh but that's not relevant. 8 years or 7, 8 years afterwards, I was in it again, seeing this guinea pig movie, and every now and then, and by that I mean like a few times a year, I remember that I saw it, and I remember a few corny lines, and that was it. So I had actually given up on ever remembering the film ever again because I just couldn't remember what it was called. And just by a stroke of luck, I was able to find it again. I didn't even remember it was a Disney movie.
Yeah, and like I said before, I didn't even know it because about midway through middle school and into high school, I see this was 2009. This movie came out. I wasn't watching kids movies like at all. I had I had started my genesis into action movie fanatic, so I wasn't watching Disney movies for the most part. I was watching Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris and Van Damme and Seagal and
Mm.
Stallone and Schwarzenegger. The thought of this movie never even it never came on my radar. So I just kind of did not know for years that it existed.
Well, it's kind of an action movie.
Yeah, it's that. It's got a lot of action. It's got some spy stuff, both of which are well within my wheelhouse. And I will say this much. Out of the movies we've talked about so far, this is easily the best one, which I
I mean,
understand isn't exactly a high qualitative bar to clear, but still.
I think even going in totally pessimistic, you could expect that would have been the case. Uh,
Yeah, at a
so
bare minimum, with a Disney movie, you at a bare minimum you will get at least some level of entertainment. Whereas,
you're gonna get some professionalism. Uh,
yeah, whereas all three of the movies I we talked about thus far are all indie movies. One of them is genetically engineered to piss you off, and the other two are trying so hard to be something that they ultimately become nothing. G-Force is not that. It's just trying to be an entertaining kids movie, which it is. And I
Well,
mean, the first dead giveaway that this is a Disney movie is the all-star cast, because Disney has a habit of assembling a who's who of some fairly famous actors for their stuff.
yeah, I was surprised looking back, just looking at the some of the names, and I'm like, oh wow. If only I had known this as a kid, I would have known to be more impressed.
Yeah, we got Sam Rockwell, we got Tracy Morgan, Penelope Cruz, John Favreau, Nicolas Cage, Steve Buscemi, Zach Galifianakis, Bill Nighy, and Will Arnett.
Yeah, it's like Ripper the video game, except this at least has the explanation as to why they were able to assemble an ensemble cast.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean,
well,
With Ripper, it's like, okay, Christopher Walken's in this. Okay, sounds legit, because that guy will in the '80s and especially the '90s, that guy was in pretty much anything.
well, I think it's time we get we get into talking about the movie. But since this is the first movie that I've actually seen in this list, I think you should. I remember asking you to write down some important scenes or scenes that stuck out to you, and seeing if I remember them.
Okay, so for people who are new to this movie, who do not know what is G-Force about, well, it's about a group of it's about this new unit in the FBI that where they have specially trained animals with extremely advanced gear that allows them to talk to humans. Uh, they're all specifically bred and trained to be secret agents by Zach Galifianakis' character Bill, and they're about to be shut down by the FBI. So they launched an investigation, an unauthorized infiltration into the home of the biggest home appliance retailer in the world, Leonard Saber, who is played by Bill Nighy, who is just being a goof of a character as he usually is. Who is also a former arms dealer. So he's got this new thing. He's developing a microchip that may or may not be may or may not be useful to the military. Codenamed Cluster Storm, which is what uh, the G Force is trying to get some evidence of. They get in, they find some information on quote unquote Cluster Storm. Which they believe is supposed to be activated in 48 hours. They don't know what the heck it is. Uh, he's holding an event at his place where he's announcing that in 48 hours he's going to be activating this thing called Saber Sense, which attaches all of his electronics, all of the home appliances to a connected hive-minded AI because movie. The evidence they find is that Cluster Storm is a world domination scheme. So they get the file, they get back to base. The director of operations, who's Will Arnett's character, uh, comes in for an evaluation. He's just ready to shut the place down. Uh, they they try to show him what's on the file, but it's not world domination plans. It's just an advert for coffee makers. So he's like, well, we're shutting the place down. We're locking the building down. The animals get away, so he puts a wanted dead or alive order on them. While they're making their escape, they wind up inside of an animal pet carrier inside of a pet store, which is where they meet Steve Buscemi and John Favreau's characters, who are really interesting characters. Steve Buscemi is this golden hamster who may or may not be part ferret, because John Favreau's character Hurley keeps giving him crap over it. For some reason, Bucky's like very territorial. He's like, "You're not crossing this line and getting into my shack." there's a reason why for that later on.
Hmm.
Oh, Hurley. Here's the thing. I love Jon Favreau as an actor. He's a really good director. I know this is a kids movie, and there's going to be some lowbrow, like kiddie humor, but the dude just farts a lot. He eats and farts.
Yeah, good quality humor right there.
The G-force, which is basically these four guinea pigs in a mall, uh, decide that they're after multiple attempts to try to escape, trying to break the glass on the pet store container they're in, trying to break the lock. At one point, they try to ignite one of Hurley's farts to break to just blast the thing open. I was like, okay, well, that's creative. They're like, okay, well, let's just get adopted. Which I was afraid that the whole pet store and the animals being adopted thing would take up 2/3 of the movie. As it turns out, it's barely even 20 minutes of the 91-minute runtime. I was afraid this was going to turn into like one of those Alvin and the Chipmunks Smurfs shenanigans type movies. It didn't. So thank you, director Hoy Yeatman, for that little favor, because those movies were terrible. And easily 2/3 of the reason they were terrible is because it was just nothing but shenanigans. So at least two of them, the resident comic relief black guy, Blaster, who's played by Tracy Morgan, because of course it's Tracy Morgan, and the hot Latina guinea pig, played by Penelope Cruz. I don't know why they needed a spicy Latina guinea pig for the movie, but whatever. Okay, I admit that wasn't nearly as bad as in Shark Tale, where they had Angelina Jolie playing a femme fatale. And it's like, she's a fish. This is gross. They get adopted by two of the worst kid stereotypes in the world. One of them is the overly cutesy 8-year-old girl, and the other is, I can't believe it's not Sid from Toy Story. Like, he doesn't try to break apart and fuck with the guinea pigs at all. It's just that stuff he does, like, he's got like this lacrosse or luge, like, I don't know what the fuck it is. It's like a mini net, and like you lunge balls at the wall or whatever. He puts Hurley in it at the pet store while the clerk's back is turned, and throws him into like a snake cage. There's a glass barrier protecting him when he lands, but still, it's like, dude, you threw a guinea pig into a cage with a python. You're a dick. You are Sid from Toy Story. And then he puts they make the decision to, okay, we're gonna take Blaster and we're gonna take Juarez, Penelope Cruz, and he puts fucking Blaster in an RC car obstacle course. So that's a random thing that just happened. The Mole, his name is Speckles, and he's played by Nicolas Cage. You can't tell it's Nicolas Cage, because Nick Cage has a very distinctive voice, and he goes out of his way to make his voice unidentifiable in this movie. He sounds like that dude from, I'm blanking on his name, the scientist guy from The Simpsons. Like,
Dr.
oh,
Frank. Frank.
Dr. Frank?
Yes.
Okay, I always blank on that guy's name because most Simpsons characters are just kind of. The Mole tries playing dead, so they'll throw him out with the garbage. He gets thrown into a garbage truck. Everyone thinks he's crushed in there. Spoiler alert, he's not. The lead hamster, Darwin, who's played by Sam Rockwell, he hears some noises going on in Bucky's little shack, finds out the dude's been hoarding nuts, and there's a trap door where the nuts are. So he uses that to get out. Hurley gets thrown out through the trap door by Bucky. He's like, yeah, the cage is all mine, dude. Like, really? So everybody just breaks out. So they're trying to get to Zach Galifianakis' place. Tracy Morgan and Penelope Cruz break out of where they were adopted from to get to Zach Galifianakis' place, and we have this big reunion. Did you happen to remember any part where that annoying little girl tried to have Juarez, Penelope Cruz, play dress up?
I remember a thing about. I feel like Paris Hilton's Chihuahua or something like that.
Yes, yes. So she puts her in like this Barbie doll playhouse, and it's got a dress and a tiara and fucking lipstick and nail polish on her. She puts her in front of the mirror, and which that might be my favorite line in the movie. Juarez just looks and goes,
I look like Paris Hilton's Chihuahua.
like, okay, well, it's 2009. I guess you can get away with that. That's one of those things where it's like, if that movie were now, it would probably be Kim Kardashian's Chihuahua.
I remember at the time, even as a kid, thinking, "Wow, that's lame. That's cheap."
It got a laugh out of me. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I just lost my mind from 3 really bad movies in a row. Darwin and Hurley, Sam Rockwell and Jon Favreau, they're they're going down the street because they're still trying to get to Zach Galifianakis's. They stop by a storefront because Darwin sees a coffee maker. It's one of Saber's coffee makers, and he goes inside because he wants to see if one of those little cluster storm Saber sense microchips is inside. Finds it, tries to pull it out, but and the coffee maker turns into a killer robot like it's Transformers.
I actually do not recall that.
Yeah, because that's
It was
what
shame.
because that's the big scheme is all of Saber's appliances are going to turn into killer robots with certain electromagnetic nodes that are going to pull just endless space junk down and bury all of humanity.
Well, that's the plot.
Yeah, actually,
What,
I think I went a little too far.
the voice acting, I'm gonna presume was fine.
It
Same
was.
with special effects, Disney film, Disney film, Disney film. I remember a few other things because this I just have to. I remember right at the beginning when they're at the introductory mission and they're being given instructions by the mole character, and he makes some comment like, "I know what's going on. I know everything that goes on there." And I immediately thought, okay, he's the bad guy. Just that one little comment. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
claim I was really clever or whatever as a kid. So when even I was able to figure that out, I also
Yeah.
remember in
Not
a
exactly
flash.
not exactly high grade writing, which is fine.
I remember a moment I found amusing: the flashback scene where the mole's family is getting gassed or whatever by humans, and the dad says,
If you ever see a chance to take revenge on humanity, take it.
or some
Yeah.
line like that.
I
I'm
was
like,
like,
what an unusually specific instruction.
yeah, I was like, what? Okay, so like y'all
Uh,
do realize you're moles, right?
yeah, that's pretty optimistic. You'll be in that situation.
The visuals like were better than they had any right to be, especially on the animals. I was worried it was going to turn into some really uncanny valley. Like I don't know if you ever saw Cats and Dogs, where it's like they just had animals on camera and then they just like CGI'd their mouth movement. And I thought it was going to go in that direction, but at least it didn't. They had a car chase that in this movie that was ridiculous, but this in this movie I could actually accept it versus the fifth Dirty Harry movie, the Deadpool, where it's like you've got Clint Eastwood driving through San Francisco being chased by an RC car with a bomb in it. That's a thing that actually happened.
Is there anything you especially abhorred about the film or found objectionable?
Objectionable. Ugh. I feel like the two kid characters that adopted Blaster and Juarez could have easily just been written out of the movie. I feel like the whole it's a kids
Yeah,
movie, so we got to shove kids in it kind of thing. I hate that. I hate when movies do that.
I agree. I think in a lot of movies, the kid character can be written out.
Like you could have the movie Like, yeah, it's 90 minutes. It's a quick sit in and out, but at the same time, like you could shave a few minutes off the runtime by cutting those characters out entirely. And I'm not a fan of a character whose primary function is fart gags. I mean, Hurley has a reason to be in the plot because he and Darwin have sort of a familial connection. They have the same birthmark on their rear ends, and it's like,
You're my brother.
now
Well,
you're really trying to remember that.
I it's so long ago. I'm wondering. I only retain a few key memories. I'm glad I saw the film so I could recommend it over a decade later. But uh, other than a few scenes that left no imprint on me.
Yeah, it's not the most memorable movie Disney's ever done. It's not the best thing they've ever done. I can think of a number of better movies in
I
their
mean,
catalog.
I think most of their films would be better.
I don't know, they've had some duds. Their success comes in leaps and bounds, and sometimes they do generate hard shit. Like, I wouldn't put this movie above one of my childhood favorites, The Great Mouse Detective. I wouldn't put this above Incredibles or Incredibles 2.
What would you put it above?
Well, I can't even use that example because I'd put anything above High School Musical. It's just kind of in the middle of the road for me. You can watch it, enjoy it while you're watching it, and then kind of forget it exists afterwards. Which I suppose is better than being a shit movie and just sticking in your memory for all the wrong reasons.
Is it? As a wise man once said, controversy is a game. It doesn't matter if people hate you as long as they say your name. G-Force. If you got Disney Plus, might as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's how I watched it. So that's going to do it for this episode of Kris Vents. Join us next week when we'll be checking out another movie that Dom has seen that I haven't. The Bee Movie. So we'll see you guys then.
Secret agent man, giving you a number, taking away